Hello there, everyone. Patricia Hayes here with our Coffee Time Career Chat. So excited to be here as always. Welcome. For those of you who are joining for the first time, again, welcome. My name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, career empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And what that means is I love helping people to get to their next level of being their best selves, even when they've been going through tough transitions, maybe been a little down with their confidence, and definitely they've been underutilizing their resources, professional relationships in order to help them achieve their goals. And so I come in to help them work through those issues and to get them to where they want to be. It's particularly working with professional women and business owners, because, unfortunately, we don't always utilize all of our resources. And it is my mission to make sure that we do so in a much more empowered way. So that said, so glad to be here. We are in the midst of a series that we've started for the summer. And I've basically gone back through some great content that I've developed down through the years and realized that there are some things that needed reviving. And so that's what this series is bringing back this professional women's common career issues series. And I'm super excited to be doing this and updating it for today because the baseline of the issues remain the same. It's just a matter of updating them to what's going on in our current marketplace. But ultimately, some of the issues overlap. They remain foundational, fundamental issues. And so I'm glad to be bringing it together right now because I get a lot of questions about these things, the situations that come my way when people connect, when they're trying to, do some initial consultations, and even with my ongoing clients. So I'm happy to be bringing this series back. It is probably going to be a 5 or 6 part series. Originally, it happened over 3 days, but it was like hour and a half time frame. So we're not doing that because this is a coffee chat. So that's why you're going to get the pleasure of getting to engage with this content over pretty much like half the summer. So this month, a little bit into July, we'll probably take a break and then come back. And so that you can keep up, know that for this series, just keep an eye out for it every Monday. Every Monday will be the new or revived content on this series. The Wednesday coffee chats, I will continue to bring back from our video vault some of the conversations, networking chats that I've had with various colleagues and women business owners and all of that, so that you can get re-inspired by that over the summer break. So that said, with this series, we started off talking about the question was whether your degree or advanced degree matters. But the real issue was about your mindset and how that was impacting what you did and how you did it. And so that's what we discussed last week in part 1 of the series. This week, we're going to be talking about the strategies for valuing that education and experience that you have. So this time we will get to some of the things in particular that you will want to give thought to, take action on. I highly recommend that if you don't already have a journal or a notebook, that you do so that you can keep track of this, because this is content that you're going to want to come back to and refresh and update as you dig deeper and do some of the work that you need to do. In the coming weeks, we will be talking about money. So that's going to get into the conversations about negotiating not just your salary, but also those benefits and other resources that come along with a position when you're either up leveling in a current position or shifting to a new one. There are always opportunities to reevaluate your compensation, and that reminder that your compensation is way more than just your salary, and how that has played in particular over the course of the last couple of years as we have moved forward in this new era post pandemic. And then lastly, the last couple of sets of conversations will be a hodgepodge of things that all relate to transition. So whether they're tough transitions that you're going through, mid-career, early career, whatever, to firings, layoffs, and retirement. People don't often think about the fact that a retirement is a transition, and it's a significant one when you've worked most of your life and you're like trying to figure out still, what am I going to do next? So that is the breadth of what we are going to be talking about in the coming weeks. I invite you to take a look, keep up, binge on the weekends when you need to or have to, and then follow back up with me and let me know if you have any ongoing questions or other issues that arise, because I would love to incorporate them as we go along in having this conversation. And speaking of having the conversation, let's go ahead and jump in, because there is a ton of content to get through this week. So this week, part 2, where we are now going to talk about some of these strategies for valuing your education and your experience. So as I said, in part 1, we talked about really dealing with that mindset and what's causing you to feel devalued, underutilized, not challenged, all of that, and how regardless of what's going on externally, really it comes back to internally and how you value things, how you are internalizing those things, and so that you can do a reset. So how you respond to what's happening externally, and to not let the external drive what you do moving forward. So the benefit is that when you reset your mindset, the benefit that comes from that is you then know what you bring to the table, right? It may be the degree, it may be the skills, maybe experience. We'll talk some more about some of those things. But here is the real juiciness of it. When you start getting your mindset straight and pushing the reset button on it, guess what? A lot of times, and I've seen it happen many, many times, not just for myself, but with the people that I work with, that not only do you not have to worry about what you bring to the table, but the table actually comes to you. What do I mean by that? When you press the reset button on your mindset and how you approach things, the opportunities that you're looking for will start coming to you. You won't have to look for them, or you definitely won't have to look for them that hard. Okay. So this is really mind-boggling. I've seen it happen. I don't know how many times. Literally, one of my clients that I'm working with currently, same type of thing, going through a transition. We've worked together 2 or 3 different times. And so we really kind of, know each other. I know what her needs are. We adjust for what she's wanting to do. And what she's wanting to do now is to take her skills to a different sector of the market and to enter a new space when it comes to her work. But the thing is, it can do a number on you when it's taking too long, because we think it's taking too long, or when it doesn't seem like the right fit has come along and we keep pushing ourselves. But when we've done the evaluation, we're like, look, you're good. You have tremendous skills. You have great experience, and there's no need for you to devalue yourself. There's no need for you to settle. And once you determine that settling thing is huge. When you decide that you don't have to settle and you keep moving forward, knowing that and acting in that and being able to say no to some things, we'll talk about that. It is amazing what opens up. So my client, she decided in the midst of this, you know what, I'm going to take a little break, because historically she's learned that that's what helps her to be able to refresh, to keep from burning out. So I was like, I'm going to take a little break. And you want to know what's happened while she's taking this little break? The little break keeps getting interrupted by opportunities coming to her to interview for potential positions. It's hilarious. So we're not supposed to be talking right now because she's on a break. And then she's like, hey, this came up. What do you think? And there we are, still having that conversation. Because when you press the reset button and are willing to sit and wait, that's a whole other conversation. But to keep moving, right? You can be waiting and moving forward at the same time. Sounds kind of weird, but you can. But it's all in how you move forward and the spirit in which you move forward, being open and willing to receiving things and not pushing, right? That's what I mean by that. And to wait for the right opportunities to show up to you, they will. And so I've seen that happen multiple times. Like I said, with other clients, I've seen it happen with me for sure. There are opportunities that come to me on the regular that I do not seek out, where either someone has referred me for something or I get a call from a headhunter. I mean, just out of the blue. It still happens. In my area of expertise, from the policy perspective and from a legal perspective and from an administrative perspective, these opportunities continue to come, right? Sometimes I pursue them, sometimes I don't. But the reality is, in recognizing that I'm walking much more aligned in truth. And so that gets delivered out there. People see that. And now it's a question of like, okay, what am I going to do with that information, with this interest? And we're going to talk about that in real time here today when you're dealing with some situations like that. Okay. So here is the first strategy. You must be willing to create your own solutions. Here's the thing. The world has shifted tremendously over the last few years and the last 2 years in particular. Things that were presumed to be status quo, conventional wisdom, all of that is not necessarily the case anymore. So what are you going to do? Are you going to allow yourself to stay trapped in the past, or are you going to be willing to move forward and think in new ways? Well, if you want to move forward, you're going to need to think more creatively and be willing to put yourself out there and to open yourself to creating your own solutions. You do not, repeat, you do not have to wait to be saved, okay? We don't have to wait to be saved. We are self-empowered, empowered enough to be advocates for ourselves, to speak up for ourselves, right? And not waiting for someone to make things better for us. That's a mindset thing. So we have to go back to that. And hey, no judgment here. I've been there. I've done that. Okay. It is a journey, not a destination. So just remember that that's not a one and done. You will have to continue along that process as you continue to grow, as you continue to up level in your career, in your profession, in your business. But that said, you want to be able to create your own solutions. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, first of all, you have to be aware of the resistance that's going to come as soon as you decide that you're ready to do that. And that resistance most often shows up as excuses of why something cannot happen. Okay. It will always show up. This can't happen because I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I don't have the right resources. All of those things that may have some element of truth to it, but is not sufficient to prohibit you completely from moving forward. Rarely is that the case. It normally means that you have to think more creatively about how you're going to approach things, but it doesn't mean you can't move forward. It may mean you can't move forward in the limited way in which you've been viewing things. And that's where you have to create some things, think differently, and be more innovative and creative. All right. One of the things that's always important is being willing to reach out to people as you explore the possibilities of what can be for you. And sometimes this is a scary thing. Now, we are not having a big fancy networking conversation. Y'all can look through any of my old content to get the nitty gritty on networking and building professional relationships. There is tons of it out there that I've provided over the years for free. And if you need some specific help, just DM me and I will send you to the right coffee chat or document or whatever so that you can delve into it. Or you can just go sign up for the 30-day consistency networking challenge and really get a high-level dose of what to do for 30 days to put yourself in a better space. Now, after that plug, the truth of the matter is that you have to build relationships. You have to keep them intact and be willing to continue to reach out. Too often people in this process will reach out once and think it's done. That's not how it works. This, again, is an ongoing process. Reaching out to new people who then may direct you to some other folks. So that requires some follow-up, but then also going back and reaching back out to the person that you started with. And you're like, well, that's work. Yes, it is. You want to do better in your job. You want to up level in your career. You want to reach new heights in your business. Guess what? It's work. It can be good work. It can be work that you enjoy, but it's work. It requires effort. And all effort is not bad effort. Okay. So put that aside as another excuse. And remember that that is a part of this process, especially if you're looking to create solutions that aren't the obvious. This is going to require you to have conversations with people that you might not otherwise have had conversations with, or to go exploring. Okay. One of the things that I highly recommend as an exercise is over the course of the next week or so, I recommend that you identify and write down 3 to 5 things that you could do to move forward, right? Don't write down what could stand in your way. Don't think about, oh, that's probably not realistic. None of that, right? Unedited, write down 3 to 5 things that you could do new, differently, okay, to create a new solution for yourself in your profession or your career, utilizing the knowledge and the experience that you have already. Here's the thing, and this is going to sound really crazy coming from me because I'm hardcore. I'm all about education. I'm all about learning and up-leveling yourself in that perspective. Here's the thing. It's not always about the actual degree or experience that you've had. It doesn't mean that that doesn't matter, because it clearly becomes a core of who you are and it's at your foundation. But what we do is we forget about the skills that we have acquired through those experiences and as a result of that education and advanced education that we receive, and forget to identify the transferable skills that have developed over time. And this is super, super important. All right. And sometimes it's hard for us to see it for ourselves. So another exercise that I highly recommend, that I've engaged in before for myself, is to go talk to some people that you trust, who've known you for a length of time. So maybe some other colleagues, maybe a really good professional friend, a mentor, or your coach, and go say, hey, I'm doing a little mini self-assessment here. And because I'm trying to figure out what to do next, where I'm going, reevaluate what it is I'm doing so that I can be more fulfilled in the work that I'm doing. What do you think are my top 3 to 5 skills? You will be amazed at what comes at you. Sometimes it's things that you already knew, but sometimes it's stuff that you took for granted and really didn't assess in that way, that people see and value for you so much. So for example, for me, it has been strategic planning. Strategic planning and being incorporating strategy approaches and things like that has been a part of my world and life like forever. And I probably started taking it for granted at some point in time, right? Because I'm just working through the policy. I was just working through creating the legislation. But all the time, I was always strategizing about what's the best approach to take in order for this to be successful down the road, recognizing when maybe something needs to slow down a little bit and maybe speed up or bring in partners and collaborate, all of that. Like, because that's how I am. It is a part of who I am and what I think. You're going to get the strategy part of me, whether you want it or not, because that's at my core. It is part of my genius and who I am. However, sometimes you forget that. And when you go to looking at things and you realize, oh my gosh, this skill set is something that has crossed over for me now 30 years of work. Regardless of whether it was the priority or whether it was the primary piece of work that I ever did, most of the time it wasn't. A lot of times, I know for a fact, a lot of that strategy work came up in the course of my community work because I served on so many boards and getting involved in strategic planning. And so this is how I became, an expert in helping organizations and nonprofit boards to up level and to do the strategic planning work that they need to do as they are growing or seeking to go to the next level. Okay. And though that's how these things happen. Don't just look at the work that you do that you've gotten paid for. Look at the work that you've done as a volunteer, working with a nonprofit, working with a board, working in the community, right? With your church, all kinds of things where you've taken on a leadership role, where you've taken on responsibilities. Take a look at those skills that you've developed over the course of that time. You will probably surprise yourself. And like I said, this is an exercise that I regularly do for myself. It's probably time for me to do it now. I haven't done it in a minute. I think I recently kind of did it because I got approached for an opportunity that I wasn't looking for. And so I kind of had to bring my brain back together to pull some things together to send out. But it's worth doing it on the regular at a minimum once a year, maybe twice, because depending on what your experiences are, you may have some things that got that resurfaced, that got stronger, and you want to be able to pull those in and utilize them as you're moving forward and figuring out what it is you want to do next and how you want to do it. Now, the second thing that you really have to do is you have to accept responsibility for what you can do. We're talking about personal accountability here, right? And you're like, is that a strategy? Absolutely it is. Here's the reason why. Because over the course of this, and I've already mentioned it, how we'll have resistance and the resistance will show up as excuses. Well, here's the strategy. At its core, accepting personal responsibility for what you can do means that you have to let go of the excuses that may block you from getting to where you want to be. And so this is where you start writing down what those excuses are. Now, this is one of the, funny, not funny exercises to do, because when you start actually putting in writing, oh, I can't do that because, I don't have X amount of time, or so-and-so doesn't like me, or whatever. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but sometimes it really does become that ridiculous. And we don't recognize it until we have actually written it out and we're looking at it and like, that is ridiculous. That is so dumb. That's stupid. You're not stupid, but that train of thought, that thing that you're about to let undermine where you're going next, not your best effort, right? So you have to call out those excuses and make sure, to validate the truth of them or not. One of my favorite commercials that is so relevant in this, there was a commercial where a little boy is playing on a video game and he's pressing buttons, right? He's pressing the buttons on the playing the video game. And he yells to his mom, "Mom, I'm hungry. I want something to eat." And she's like, "Well, you can go fix yourself something to eat." He was like, "I don't know how." She's like, "Well, you can go heat this up, go, go to the microwave, put it in and press the buttons to heat it up." And he's like, "I don't know how to press any buttons." All the time presses the buttons to play the video game. And of course, the mom looks at him like, "You're ridiculous." That is what we do to ourselves. The whole time doing the thing that we're also making excuses like, "Well, I really don't know how to do that." Until we have to come to ourselves and recognize this is ridiculous. That's not true. Okay. So you have to accept that personal responsibility, become accountable to yourself, get some external help when you need it, right? A mentor, you have a close colleague, maybe all are accountability partners. Maybe you need to invest in a coach, right? So you invest in a coach who will keep you accountable because they're not invested in your outcome in terms of what you do, but rather in helping you to achieve at the level that you want to, right? So there's so many ways. I've just named 3 where you can take things to the next level and being more accountable to yourself, so that you can make the effort to overcome the superficial. A lot of times those excuses are very surface level. Okay. They're superficial reasons, and we need to dig deeper. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. All right. Number three for this one is the strategy is saying no, and how that saying no is an effective strategy. Why? Because every time you say no to something or someone, you are making room and leaving space for the yes to arrive. This is, again, one of those journey moments where it's an ongoing thing that you learn from on a regular basis. And it's also something that's one of the most difficult things for us to do, particularly as women, right? Because we can get guilted into if you say no or say no with an excuse, remembering that, because sometimes we forget that no is a complete sentence. I remember when I first learned that, I'm like, how freeing is that? Like, saying no is a complete sentence in and of itself. But if you can't just say no, then he was like, no, not right now. No, maybe later. No, let me refer someone else. Like, there are other ways to say no, but the bottom line is to say it. Now, why is this a strategy for you, for your growth? 2 reasons. Number 1, it helps you to set boundaries, because most of the time we are not setting the boundaries that we need, particularly in our professional work, when we keep allowing things to get piled on us, and that builds to that resentment. It builds up to that feeling underutilized, overworked, whatever it may be. And you feeling really challenged because you don't feel like you're open to whatever is coming next, because you keep accepting things that you really should not be putting on your plate, right? So that's one of the reasons why saying no is an effective strategy. It helps you to reset boundaries. The second thing that it does, kind of the flip of that, is it helps to set priorities, particularly at work. So it's not just about you resetting your priorities. Saying no can help you help your boss, help your workplace reset their priorities. The common factor is you've got 10 things on your plate. It's a small plate. It's already spilling over anyways. And then here comes your boss with item number 11. And most of the time, a lot of the times, people will just take it, won't say, how am I going to get this done? This is not realistic or whatever. They won't challenge it because they feel like they'll be in trouble or something. But there is a way to do it professionally and respectfully, but to acknowledge and that say, hey, I'm dealing with these 10 things on this 6-inch plate, and you just gave me item number 11. So I have to ask, what is your priority? How do you want me to prioritize these things? Because the reality is I can't get them all done in X amount of time. So how do you want me to prioritize? And a lot of times people will be like taken aback because no one has actually said that to them. And they can appreciate it, because here's the reason why. If you prioritize now, that keeps you from having these off moments later where you're stressing out, again, having expanded, gone past boundaries that should have been set. And now you're frustrated, upset, tired, and all of that. And let's say a project is not going to get done as a result. Okay. So you want to be able to do that, not just for yourself, but actually it helps the work that you're doing. So think about that as setting a boundary and setting priorities that all lead to you being able to be open to the things that really should be on your radar and leaving yourself open to receiving that so that you can move to the next level of who you want to be, what you want to do in an aligned fashion. Okay. So there we are. I told you it's a lot of content. These coffee chats right here are going to be a tad bit longer because they're really getting into some strong content on these matters, but I want to be able to share them with you. Okay, so that is it for part 2. Next week we will begin with the next section where we're going to talk about money, and talking about compensation, how we value ourselves in terms of compensation, and how we let ourselves down, and how we can be better and stronger advocates as well. Okay, so look forward to that. If you have any questions, hit me up in the DMs, hit me up in the comments. I'm happy to answer, follow up, see if I can incorporate it into what's coming next, and or maybe a Q&A at the end. I don't know. We'll see. We'll go with the flow on that. Be sure to check out my link tree for upcoming or existing programs and opportunities to grow. This, over the summer is a great opportunity to do some things and some work that you might not have done before. So I invite you to do it. And if you're not sure what it is you should be doing and what you could be, get on my calendar, schedule the 20-minute consult. It's free. And we can have a little quick chat about what that looks like for you and how you can move forward. All right, there we go. Take care, everyone. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.